have to kill people who kill people. You know, we can solve our problem by taking them off the street without having to kill them, because the possibility is always there that you kill the wrong person, like we've just in Texas experienced perhaps Cameron Todd Willingham, or there was another one recently whose name has escaped me at the moment, but a question as to whether or not he was actually innocent of the crime. But even if there are questions about the guilt of somebody after we've already executed them, is way, way more than I would ever want to be responsible for. So I think that, and I hope that the death penalty in Texas is going to be gone. I want it gone. I think it's just awful. And I started this process in the early 80s, not really being against the death penalty. I think sometimes there are people who do things that are so bad and so against our world, and I think you have to judge whether you are for or against the death penalty if you think, well, what would I do to that person who harmed my child or my husband or your wife? You know, can you look at that case objectively and say, well, let's just put him in a box for the rest of his life and that'll be okay with me? Probably not. Most people would say, no, I want him dead. And so when I started this process, I thought that that was how I felt, you know, that there are people who do things so bad that they really deserve to die. They don't deserve to live and walk on the same earth that I walk on, because I try to follow the law and live a good life and do things for other people. And I don't want somebody in my space who does bad things to other people. But over the years, I have learned that may be the way you feel emotionally, and that's okay to feel like that. If it had happened to me, I would have emotionally wanted those people dead. But knowing what I know about our system, and I can only speak firsthand to the system in Texas, and I can tell you that it's a bad system. It's not fair. It's not right. And I always give this example when I'm speaking somewhere. When you talk about fairness in executions, you know, if somebody commits this kind of murder, they ought to, the same people who commit it ought to get the same sentence, whether it's life or death or 50 years in prison or whatever, if they commit that same crime with the same circumstances in all 254 counties of our state. But that's not the way it is. You can commit the same murder in Harris County and you'll probably get charged with capital murder and may or may not face the death penalty. You may commit that same crime in Burleson County, for instance, or another small jurisdiction in Texas, and because they don't have the money to pay for lawyers and experts and trials and everything that goes along with capital murder trials, they may not charge him with capital murder, or they may not seek the death penalty, and the reason being not that the facts of the case does not deserve the death penalty. It may just be because of financial reasons, which is not right. That's wrong. And I think it's obvious, studies have shown that, you know, white people who have money and can afford lawyers don't get the death penalty. That's wrong too. So the system in Texas is flawed, and it needs to be totally gone. We don't need a death sentence in Texas. We have the life without parole, and it's cheaper, it's quicker, it's easier, and it serves the purpose. And I'm assuming that the purpose is to get this bad, horrible person off the street so that he doesn't hurt my loved one or my family or me. And that is accomplished by putting a person in prison for the rest of their life. We don't have to strap them to a gurney and inject them with a drug concoction that even the veterinarians wouldn't use for their dogs. So I think that for that reason, we ought to do away with it. Here in Houston, over the last several weeks, I've noticed that there have been several editorials in our newspaper here saying just that we need to do away with the death penalty in Texas because it is flawed and we don't need it, and we don't need to be killing people because they kill people. How is it okay for us to kill and not okay for them to kill? Other than one reason, and that's revenge. And that's not a good enough reason for me to want to kill somebody else.